Hello and welcome everyone. Red Protoss here, yet again with another build highlight video. Today I'm gonna show you my bleeding Trickster. And yeah, let's head into the game here. I'll start with showing you the skill point allocation as always. Alright. In the game here, let's put on the buffs. Alright, let's start off with the skill point allocation here. So, as you can see, we have 50 points into Nightblade and 50 points into the Shaman tree. Let's start off with the Nightblade tree. So, we are not dual wielding, so we obviously don't have points in dual blades. We don't really have time to use Lethal Assault, even though I kinda wish I would have the OA from this. So yeah, we're also using this. So what we're using is the Veil of Shadow. This is, well, pretty good debuff all around your character to debuff your enemies. Basically gives yourself 130 effective DA, right? So it reduces the enemy OA by 130 and reduces enemy total speed. It's just, well, a pretty decent buff for your character, like debuff around your character. Overall pretty good. Now we have the Pneumatic Burst here as our healing ability. It also gives ourselves 11% total speed. I mean, this is just like Veil of Shadow, a must-have for any Nightblade. Same goes for Shadow Dance, Elemental Awakening, and well, Night's Chill. I don't really need Night's Chill. I have only 1 point here for the minus 10% pierce resistance, I think. Yeah, because I mean, it's mainly a bleeding build, but every bleeding build, especially like a Nightblade bleeding build, deals a lot of pierce damage as well, like as a secondary. So having 10% pierce resistance reduction for 1 point isn't really that terrible. Yeah, that's why I have still 1 point here. Shadow Dance, we have this at soft cap. You should have this at least at a soft cap. You can put even more points if you want to have more DA. Putting more points here, like overcapping Shadow Dance, is much better than overcapping Veil of Shadow. Veil of Shadow gives you minus 130 OA for 10 points, and then like point 11, 12, and so on will give you minus 5 OA. This gives you 12, at 12 out of 12 it gives you 120 DA, so it's a little bit less per point, but you also got the dodge chance for melee and range attacks. And if you check out like the overcapping point, those give you a lot more DA than this gives you minus OA to the enemy. So if you want to overcap something out of these two, do overcap Shadow Dance, never ever overcap Veil of Shadow, it's not really worth it. And then like 1 point into Elemental Awakening, this is mainly for the 6% elemental resistances for 1 point. It's not bad, not really that great either, but it's pretty decent. 1 point into Shadow Strike for mobility. Yeah, just the 1 pointer, that's it. Basically our engage tool, nothing else. 1 point into Phantasm Armor because, well, 1 point for 5% Pierce, Freeze, and 6% Petrify resist is pretty decent. Also 24 flat armor. It's pretty good for 1 pointer. And also some Energy Leech, which is also pretty good actually for this character, so yeah, very nice. Anatomy of Murder. This one has a huge cunning bonus and also a very good bleeding bonus, and also multiplicative damage to humans. So this is very, very good for this specific build because we actually benefit from like 3 out of the 5 stats here. That's very, very good. Now on to like the first damaging spell, Phantasmal Blades. Phantasmal Blades has a lot of bleeding damage, and we max this out as far as we can with the items that we have, and yeah, this is one of our main sources of bleeding damage in this build. The other one is gonna be Ring of Steel. Like, Ring of Steel is probably the main ability of this build, to be honest with you. As you can see, like, the value of bleeding damage here is a little higher than the one of Phantasmal Blades. This one has like 30k, this one has like 35 to 48k. and also more crit damage. I mean, that said, I have some points in the Heartseeker. I believe it's actually only a 1-pointer. We have this quite high because we have so many bonuses, and also we have this quite high because this has a chance to pass through enemies, so the higher you have this, the higher your chance is that your Phantasmal Blades not only hit one target, but also like the targets behind that target, applying the bleed to all targets behind that target as well. And then like 1-pointer in the other edge, this is basically just for the crit damage. We don't really care about the cold damage or the chaos damage, we're not scaling that or converting that. It's just a 1-pointer for 15% crit, and I mean 1-pointer for 15% crit is not that terrible, so yeah, just a 1-pointer here. Yeah, Ring of Steel, like, that's a 1-pointer, and you're mainly using this for Circle of Slaughter. Circle of Slaughter is, as I said before, our main source of bleeding damage. Has insane crit as well. And then the last skill, or like the second to last skill from that blade that we're using is the Blade Spirit. This is just another layer of bleeding damage for us. And I mean, it's basically a player skill pet, which you spawn once and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. So this will do its own thing and you don't have to worry about it. And it's also proccing Falcon Swoop every now and then. It's pretty good at proccing that. So that's just another layer of bleeding damage that we have on top of everything else, and we don't have to worry about like activating it or anything. And the last spell is like Blade Barrier. I have this as a 1-pointer right now. You could actually put more points here if you want to, because with a bleeding build, Blade Barrier has like very good synergy actually, because what this build basically does is, I mean, you apply all your sources of bleed once, and then you can choose to either wait for the enemy to bleed or like you wait for the cooldowns, and during that time you can actually use Blade Barrier quite frequently. So it's a very good spell for a build like this, I would say. So you could put more points than 1 point here into Blade Barrier for sure. Probably better to put more points here when you want to dive even deeper in SR. The highest I have, or like the deepest I have delved into the Shadow Realm so far in this character is Shard 66 on Hardcore, which is already pretty good. It's like the deepest I've went with my characters so far, at least for Hardcore. And I mean, at Softcore, this should be an easy 75 to 76 build. And probably in Hardcore I could go deeper, but I just didn't really have the time to try it out yet. I had some other stuff that I wanted to do instead. And yeah, SR is a little bit sketchy in Hardcore because of its RNG. Anyways, let's go over to Shaman tree. So we have a 1-pointer in Brute Force. I mean, 1.4, 250 HP is not that bad. We don't really care about the other stats. And also this activates, or like this makes us able to use Feral Hunger and Upheaval as well. Upheaval is a 1-pointer as well. We're not really default attacking that much, but this 1-pointer does have 5.5k bleeding damage, so in case it does like proc, we get some additional bleeding damage on top of everything. And also we have Feral Hunger as a 1-pointer, I believe, as well, which adds like 7.6k bleeding damage as well, on top of like the usual savagery strikes. The reasons I only have these are like 1-pointers. You could put more points into Feral Hunger, for example, or into Upheaval if you want to focus more around default attacking. But I believe for bleeding build, the preferred playstyle should be like hit and run. So you hit your abilities once, and then maybe use some default attacks to like stack up your savagery, and then other than that you just run around and let the enemy bleed, and like you re-engage once like bleed take wears off and reapply it, etc. So same thing for savagery. Because of that, we have a 1-pointer in savagery here. We have Tenacity of the Boar at a soft cap, because if we didn't soft cap this, but Tricksters would have like basically no OA and DA. They're very starved on OA and DA, especially because we don't even use Lethal Assault now, so we have already less OA than we could have. And not using Tenacity of the Boar would, well, make this a 0 DA and OA build basically, so we have to soft cap this at least, and then have a 1-pointer here in Storm Touch because of the attack speed. Makes it a little bit easier to apply the savagery stacks. And I mean, 1-pointer for 7% attack speed is pretty decent, even though we're not really using the attack speed that much. 3 points at the Might of the Boar. Now this is very good because of the physical resistance. Physical resistance is a stat you want to have on every build, and you can never have enough of this. And yeah, I mean, since we're a two-hander, we have the benefit of being able to use this. So yeah, applying savagery stacks every now and then is actually very important. Which, I mean, yeah, it fits the hit and run playstyle. You go in, apply some stacks of savagery, apply your other skills, and run around again. Then the next one, Devouring Swarm. This is like a no-brainer for bleeding or vitality builds. Every bleeding and vitality shaman should use this. This applies bleeding damage, and also, most importantly, it reduces enemy vitality and bleeding resistance. In this case, the bleeding resistance reduction is the interesting part. And I mean, yeah, it's just a staple skill that you always have to use in a bleeding build when using a shaman. Now another staple, like buff or aura that every shaman ever should use is the Mogdragon's Pact. We are using 1 point into Mogdragon's Pact. We use soft cap for Heart of the Wild and soft cap for Oakskin. This one gives us a huge amount of HP. This one gives us a huge amount of armor, pierce, and aether resistance now. Oakskin and Heart of the Wild are very, very good and like the core defense of any shaman. Shaman doesn't really have that much defense other than these two. I mean, there's the Wendigo Totem, and I did run the Wendigo Totem before in this build, and you could also go back to running it if you want to stay a little bit more like melee range heavy. After deciding that I want to go more for the hit and run kiting approach, I dropped this because it's actually only really good when you're like staying in melee and actually attacking. Because you have to be inside the radius of the totem, and the radius is not really that high. So yeah, it's only gonna heal you when you and your enemy are inside the radius. But yeah, do consider this as a viable spell for this build. And then last but not least, we have the Primal Bond. This is our exclusive skill for this build. It's the standard bleeding exclusive skill for shamans. You have 17% damage absorption, flat bleeding damage, less damage from beasts, and percent bleeding damage with increased duration here. I mean, this is just a very solid skill overall, especially the damage absorption is very, very good. And yeah, I mean, we're not getting crit damage here, but the skills that we are using, Phantasmal Blades and Ring of Steel, they already have quite a lot of like built-in crit damage already, especially this Circle of Slaughter here. So yeah, that's pretty good already. Now, onto the devotions. I mean, for bleeding devotions, there are quite some different ones that you can use. I mean, there are only 2 tier 3 devotions that are really interesting for bleed though. Like you have Mogdragon the Wolf, and you have Living Shadow, like the Unknown Soldier. And if you want to go for like the best DPS, I guess you should go for both of them. The reason I'm not going for both of them is because 1, this is hardcore, and 2, I wanted to do a little bit more defensive approach. And instead I'm running Giant's Blood, Chariot, and actually also the Harp. I mean, the Harp is being run because my OA and DA is a little bit low, and also because I had energy problems. So, yeah, if you don't have energy problems, you can skip the Harp, obviously. But also because I decided to not run the Wendigo Totem anymore, and because you also cannot heal from bleeding spells, except for like Devouring Swarm, I think. yeah, it's pretty hard to get some decent healing. And I mean, you could go for the ghoul, but I decided to ultimately not use ghoul because also ghoul is better when you go for like a more melee-oriented approach. And Twin Fangs, I mean, Twin Fangs could be an option. Twin Fangs is pretty good. You could go Twin Fangs instead of Behemoth, for example. That is definitely viable. But yeah, this is what I decided to go with for now. This is also like, these are devotions that I use to do SR66 and also to kill Ravager with. Yeah, let's get started here. So obviously, Mokjogon is the tier 3, like a tier 3 of choice that we're gonna use here. The like the active skill is very good. It reduces target's enemy DA, or like it gives yourself a buff that reduces target's enemy DA whenever you use weapon damage, and gives you more attack speed and flat bleeding damage. So this is everything a bleeding build kind of wants to have. I mean, you don't really care about the attack speed that much on this build, but nevertheless it's pretty good. Also the nodes are pretty good, gives you like a lot of bleeding damage and some resistances here and there, elemental bleeding and vitality resistance. Then I think the best, or like the most important devotion for any bleeding build is the Huntress. This is a must-have just because of the active devotion here, Rend. This one has bleeding resistance reduction and minus OA on it. This minus OA is gonna stack with all other sources of minus OA, so it's very, very good. Yeah, this is a must-have. And then, as you can see, like we needed a lot of green and purple. Now, in general, I don't really like green and purple that much. Like blue, red, and yellow are generally speaking a little bit better. But there are some like decent ones that you can choose. For example, the Throne, the Wolverine. Wolverine is for DA mostly. The Throne is for resistances. I mean, these are not that great, but the stun resistance is very good. And 5 affinity points here as well. I don't know, the Fox is pretty good for bleeding builds. It's useless for anything else. But yeah, since we're a bleeding build, we can use this perfectly here. Then also we chose to go for the Falcon. Falcon is like another source of bleeding damage we stack on everything else. Binding these to the Blade Spirits as well, pretty good. They proc it pretty frequently. And yeah, this also gives us green and purple, so again, perfect for what we want. So yeah, for the remaining greens and purples, I believe I went for, yeah, I mean the purple's already set, like we get 1 purple, 1 green from the Huntress as well. And we do need some red for the Huntress as well. To get the red, I went for Chariot and Kraken. Now the Kraken is a pretty obvious choice for two-handers, giving us casting speed, attack speed, movement speed, and crit damage. Now also the casting speed is actually very important for this build. So like spam for that, like need to just give us a quicker rotation on Ring of Steel, Phantasmal Blade, Shadow Strike, and Devouring Swarm, right? So yeah, that's pretty good actually. Like all of the nodes are very helpful here for this build. And the Chariot, I mean, it's just a solid devotion overall, gives you a lot of OA. Now it also gives you stun reduction here. It's like stun resistance. And yeah, the proc itself also gives you some DA and some health regenerated. Binding these to any of the permanent auras, in this case Primal Bond. Yeah, exactly. And oh yeah, the harp is taken for like blue and yellow. Actually, not really. Like no, the harp is just taken for like the OA, DA, and energy, right? So the blue and yellow that we actually only have because of harp. That's like the nodes are not that bad as well. Like HP, energy, bleeding, and pierce resistance, energy, and elemental resistance. So we not only get some energy and OA and DA from the proc, but also some energy from like some resistances from the nodes as well. That's not that useless as you might think, besides the energy. And yeah, I mean, now I had like 4 points left, and I basically went for Giant Splat because Giant Splat is one of the best things that you can go for with 4 points left. The Behemoth, HP, 5% HP and 80 armor here, and the proc Giant Splat here. Yeah, pretty good. You can bind this. I mean, you don't really have a like circuit breaker, like blast shield on a character like this, so you just choose any like permanent buff here. I mean, I like Giant Splat a lot more if you can bind it to like a circuit breaker like blast shield, so whenever you drop below 66% for example on a blast shield, you will get the Giant Splat heal as well. That has better synergy than putting it like any aura like here, but it's still pretty decent like this, I would say. But yeah, feel free to take away these 4 points and rearrange your like devotions a little bit to be able to fit that. I think you can like take away, yeah, you could like skip, like take away Behemoth and use Bat. Then you have to switch Fox for say Hawk, for example. So you can use Bat and Hawk instead of Fox and Behemoth, for example. That can work as well. Now, onto the gear, right? So the core of a Rancor Trickster is obviously going to be the Rancor weapon. So the Rancor weapon has the following stats. It gives us more CD, like more cooldown to Phantasma Blades, but also modifies the damage by 50% to Phantasma Blades. This is basically perfect for bleeding Phantasma Blades build, because you cannot spam Phantasma Blades anymore with this. But I mean, you could, actually no, that's wrong. You can still spam Phantasma Blades if you use this, because this is gonna like override the +1 skill, like the +1 cooldown you get here. So you can still go for spam Phantasma Blades on a Rancor build. You could do that with like a piercing build. There are actually quite a different ways how to make Rancor work. You can go for like the two-hander savagery, where you can go for the spam Phantasma Blades one using pierced Phantasma Blades, or you can go for the like bleeding Phantasma Blades, but what I'm going here for. Yeah, and then this also gives us more bleeding resistance reduction to Devouring Swarm, and some more bleeding damage to Devouring Swarm. I mean, Devouring Swarm is still gonna be only a supportive skill, but having more bleed resistance reduction on that is pretty nice for us. Now the second core of this build, since we're going for a bleed build, is the Blood Rager set. And when I made this build, the Blood Rager set was recently reworked in patch 1.1.2. And it's a lot better now than before, for sure. It's one of the best sets in the game, I would say now, and I mean probably the best for bleed right now there is. And yeah, just the standard 4-piece Blood Rager set. This will give us yeah, some more bleeding damage for Ring of Steel here from the gem, some bleeding damage to Savagery from the cowl, and also more weapon damage. And chest and shoulders are for the 3 and 4-piece set bonus. 3-piece set bonus is very, very good. Crit damage, physical resistance, +3 to the spell we're, which is like our main spell, Circle of Slaughter. And then the 4-piece set bonus has a very nice, I mean, proc, the Blood Rage proc, and +3 to Savagery, which you don't really need that much, but it's nice to have. And also the cowl got another proc now as well. Now the set proc is on critical attack and not on enemy death anymore, and instead of that the cowl got a new proc which is on enemy death. So yeah, the skill has now, I mean the set has now double procs, and the proc from the ham, which procs on enemy death, actually also heals your character. So yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, for pants, you can use other pants here. I just went with the standard Barbaros ones because they have very good OA and some decent DA, and giving me like +2 to Ring of Steel. But honestly, you can use other ones here. I'm just using these because of, well, yeah, also because of the chaos resistance actually. But if you have like some other green boots, I mean green pants, you can use those instead. These are more a like filler pair of pants here. Same thing for the boots. The boots are filler as well here. We're using them for like stun reduction and for the HP and poison resistance, I believe. And element resistance as well, I guess. All around, like, very solid, probably the best purple boots in the game. So you can always use them as a filler for like any build. Now another core item of the build would be the Grasp of Unchained Might. This gives us huge weapon damage and type 3 or like type C resistance reduction to Ring of Steel, which is actually useful for this build because we're not using type 3 or like type C resistance reduction from Devotions yet, so that basically makes us able to skip, say, Manticore or skip the Scales or Revenant, like all those devotions that give you type 3 resistance reduction now. Yeah, onto the rings. I was using like different rings before here. You can use other rings that focus more around savagery here. But ultimately I decided to go for the more, as I said, more kiting approach. And for the kiting approach, these two are much better actually. We have the Deathlord's Band, giving us Heartseeker bonus and also having a proc. This is actually the only ring that has a bleeding proc, like a good bleeding proc on it. So this is like another layer on top. Also attack speed, casting speed, and % bleeding damage and some DA. Along with resistances, obviously. And then this one, the Mammoth Blade Seal. This is actually a faction item that you can buy from Mammoth Resistance. And it does have stun reduction, which is huge for a blue ring. It has 4% OA. This helps us with our OA a lot. As I've mentioned before, like Trickster has a very hard time getting OA and DA. In this case, OA is even worse to get because we don't have Lethal Assault. And this ring kind of fixes that problem as well. So we have stun reduction, vitality resistance, OA, and some bleeding %. And also +2 to Blade Spirit, which is also welcome for a like fighting bleeding build like this. Now the mark, or like the medal I should say, is the Mark of Consumption. I'm using this for mainly for the flat bleeding damage on it and for the bleeding modifier to Phantasmal Blades. This adds more bleeding damage to like one of our main skills. And yeah, also more lifesteal from Phantasmal Blades, +3 to Feral Hunger and Heartseeker. We're using both of those, so that's pretty good as well. It also gives us OA, % OA, Pierce Resistance, Elemental Resistance, and HP. Overall, a very good medal here. If you go for like a little different approach, you can go for another medal here, like Direwolf Crest, for example, if you want to focus more around savagery. There are also like defensive options. This is a like offensive option for, well, the kiting build, I would say. And for that, I would say it's the best. Now the belt, the Mythical Gutthog belt, +1 to Shaman, very, very important here. % bleeding damage, crit damage, flat bleeding damage, bonuses to Feral Hunger, and also crit. So, and also like the % multiplicative damage to humans, actually very good as well. Overall, very solid bleeding belt for Shamans. Yeah, the choice here. Now for the relics, there are some different relics that you can go for here as well. You can go for Serenity Relic if you want to be more defensive. But in this case, I went with Massacre. Massacre has basically the best proc out of all the relics for bleeding builds. The Blood Spines. Those are very, very good. And they add like a lot of damage on top of your other damage. I mean, like all the damage over time builds are basically around having as many layers of skills which like add up on top of each other. So using blood spines on top of everything else, like just another layer of damage that we have, and put it on top of everything, which will like add to the bleed text that we will have later on. And I got a little bit lucky here. Completion bonus giving me +1 tenacity of the boar and heart of the wild. Both of those are very, very useful. So yeah, that was quite some luck here as well, actually. In components, still using double sanctified bone for the racial damage and also vitality and chaos resistance. I could probably like switch around one of them now if I want to, but I think it's fine like this. Living armor in the shoulders. I mean, you always go either living armor or sacred plating in the shoulders, depending on what you need more. In this case, we need the chaos and elemental resistance more. Also, OA is pretty decent, or like very helpful here, and we don't really need the HP. We have enough of that. Scaled hide and the pants here, because we don't really have a lot of armor absorption from anything else. So yeah, scaled hide that is instead of ancient armor plate. Triple Agnenborg leathers here to fix our poison resistance for the most part. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad component, and if you need it, you should just use it in all these three: Tainted Heart and the Metal. Because we are using Bard's Harp, we actually don't need Arcane Spark anymore. And I mean, I kind of need Tainted Heart anyways to fix these resistances. Like, resistances are a little bit tight on this build, especially Aether and Chaos resistance. So, yeah. We have the Tainted Heart here, Blooded Crystals in the rings, and Seal of Annihilation, as always, the amulet. And for the two-hander, we are using the Seal of Blades, giving us more flat bleeding damage, and also increasing our pierce and armor, like pierce resistance and armor, and while giving us another source of bleeding damage, which is like the proc itself, and the percent bleeding damage from the seal itself. And I mean, augments, you can check them out here. You can check them in the Grim Tools link as well if you want to. They're just for like fixing resistances or like overcapping resistances a little bit better. Obviously, Ravager's Eye in the weapon, and Osiris Temper over here, and the rings and amulets. Now, if you take a look at the OA and the A, you can see it's very low like this. So you have to kind of use savagery every now and then to be able to have decent OA and DA. Another thing I should mention is the legendary augment for the metal, right? We're using the Rune of Displacement here, yet again, as on many builds. In this case, we're using this because it's like the best disengaging augment there is in the game. It's just very fast, very responsive, has a pretty low cooldown, 50-meter range. It's like the best teleport in the game. The reason we're using this is because we already have Shadow Strike as like our engage, and we can use this as our disengage. I kind of like to have one like engage and one disengage on any character. My Ritualist doesn't have that, so I had to use an augment that kind of fit both roles. That's why I used the jump for that. But yeah, in this case you can use the Shadow Strike to engage and the displacement to disengage. So you can like Shadow Strike and use all your skills and then disengage around again, disengage out. So also when it comes to my like skill setup here, I have the Ring of Steel, Phantasmal Blades, Shadow Strike, and Devouring Swarm here as my Q, W, E, and R. These are basically my rotation. So it's like start with Shadow Strike, or like maybe I even throw Devouring Swarm and Phantasmal Blades before going like this. Use the Shadow Strike afterwards and Ring of Steel, and then after that I should use like some surgery attacks, so like this, some surgery attacks, and then port out, for example, and then rinse and repeat. Do the same, obviously. Use the Ring of Steel in melee range and not before Shadow Striking in there. Or like this. Yeah. I have Pneumatic Burst on my 3 here. It's basically my standard heal slash well, clickable aura button for me. I have the Courageous Tincture on 4. For anyone who's playing hardcore, I very much recommend using a Courageous Tincture at all times, in the end game at least. I usually have it either at 4 or on A here. Depends what's like more comfortable for you. I mean, most of the time you don't have the 4 free because you have like another thing here, say like Mark of Torment or maybe Nullification on 4, and then I have to use the Tincture on A. So when you have Courageous Tincture on A here, you're not gonna be able to see your cooldown of your health pot, but you're still gonna be able to use it. As you can also see, I'm not using Elixir Spirit on my bar here, but I'm still able to use it, as you can see here. I'm doing that with the key bindings and like hotkeys for drink energy potion and drink HP potion. This way you don't have to have your potions on your bar, but you can still use them and have them bound to 1 or and 2. It's kinda useful to be able to see the cooldown of your potion though. So if I have the slot free here, I'm gonna put it over here just so that I can see the potion. The Aether Cluster is another safety measure that you should do, or like that you should take in hardcore. You don't need it in softcore. This gives you like a huge absorption and skill disruption protection for 8 seconds. So whenever you want to either finish off a very hard enemy or you're like almost about to die, use this as kind of like your panic button as well. And then S is like my standard key I use for disengage, and in this case I'm using the displacement rune on that. Right mouse button is move to for me. I kind of like to have that, especially on like hit and run builds. That's very comfortable for me. And left mouse button is my default attack, surgery. Now I'm gonna show you a small highlight here. I'm gonna show you the standard Bloom run and also an Ancient Grove run on this character. If you want to check out the other content that I did on this character, there are some other videos on YouTube about this character, like about Shadow Realm. I mean 50 to 51 and 65 to 66 is on there, as well as the Ravager fight, and also like first time I fought Lokarr on this character. So feel free to check those out as well. I have to say though, this character is, while it is a very good character to farm like Shadow Realm, it's not necessarily the best character to farm Lokarr with, because bleeding damage is a little bit slow, like slow starting. Like you have to apply all the sources first, or like how you start dealing the real damage. I mean, that's sad. Lokarr is still kinda easy to fight because you can kite him around, right? But it's not gonna be as fast as maybe some other builds of mine. Like, it's not gonna be as fast as my Ritualist, not gonna be as fast as my Mage Hunter, for example. I mean, you can still do it, you can still farm it if you want. Alright, let's go. Oh, We got the kitty right off the start here. Okay. I actually like it very much when the Death Stalker spawns right at the beginning. Because after killing her, you don't have to worry about her anymore. Like for the rest of the dungeon. Alright. Trial of Corruption. Now once an enemy, like if you're using Grim Internals, like I am right now, once an enemy or like an elite has like red HP, you can start like stop attacking him, because he's just gonna die to the bleed image anyways. Actually have Afflicted and Brutal here. It's pretty monk-ass. Now, at this vendor, I always want to buy better shells and Frozen Hearts because they're pretty rare. I mean, if you don't have all the blueprints, check out the blueprints here as well. Also, you have to be careful about like crabs backstepping you. And also check out the rings here, like they can be very good. Maybe you get lucky and get like a very good FX here. Check out all the items depending on what you are looking for. Now on to Slothstar here. Could see me using the Blade Barrier there once I knew I had enough bleeding damage stacked on him. It's pretty nice to use on this build. Also, I saw the crab here, but he ran away again. What the hell? These crabs are so strange sometimes. Why are they running, man? There it is. Alright, crab number 2 down. Alright, Gargabol, here we go. Yeah, you gotta be a little bit careful with this fella. Looking pretty low there. You have to, against bosses like Gargabol, this character you have to cut. You absolutely have to cut. Alright, now to the Lokarr Dungeon. In the Lokarr Dungeon, I always advise you to use a Hoarfrost ointment if you don't have maxed out freeze resistance, which we don't have here. Just a safety measure against all those freezing traps that you can encounter here. You could see all the like percent damage that I have against humans right there, kicking in. If you wanna farm Dark One set, you should continue further and kill the last two, or like, no, the last one. Rift claim the Tyrion as well. I'm not gonna do that here though. Alright, onto Lokarr himself. I mean, I'm not gonna take any chances here in hardcore. We're just gonna jelly up, right? These are very cheap to buy or like to craft anyways. And then we want to have fire resistance, right? So this one, flame drinkers. And also, since we have low OA and DA, we want elixir of the dragon hole as well. This is like my standard setup against Lokarr. This is what you should always use in fighting this guy, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you should time Bladeberry a little bit better there than me. Was a little bit too clutch for me, to be honest here. And also you can always just kite around way more than I just did. I played this a little bit reckless, but I mean, it was fine. Alright, so I was also finally able to find Kubacabra here. I'm gonna show you a like quick Kubacabra kill here on this character. Make sure to not stand inside the pools. Attack every now and then, and I mean, he's just gonna die, right? The bleed is a little bit too strong for him here. And a blue count, there we go, nice. Yeah, anyways guys, this is gonna be it for me for this bleed Rancor highlight video. Feel free to check out also all the other videos about this Trickster. It's a very fun build to play for sure for me. If you enjoy like kiting playstyle while being like melee, two-handed at the same time, this is the perfect build for you to play. I actually like the weapon a lot. Like I think they managed to do a very great job at making a two-hander not feel bad. And also, like the weapon enables 3 different playstyles, it's actually insane. It's one of their best designed weapons in the game right now, I would say, when it comes to viability and versatility. And also when it comes to fun playing the character and like playing the weapon. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for watching. I hope you liked this video, even though I'm like still not fully recovered from my flu/cold I had last week. I hope it wasn't too bad listening to my cracking voice today. And yeah, feel free to leave a comment, leave a like, or check out my Discord, my YouTube, like my other YouTube videos, my Twitch, and also my Google Docs, where you can find all my other Grim Tools links. Yeah, thank you very much again everyone for watching, and see you guys next time.